hard Faction Wars news, well, there's one word to describe how I am right now. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and, we're on my main, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to be hopping over to a video shortly where we are going to be talking about, well, what they're doing with hard Faction Wars, and honestly, some of the other stuff they're talking about with the patches. So this looks particularly cool. From what I've seen so far, hard Faction Wars looks interesting. I've been super excited for it because I think it's going to be great endgame, interesting content. And, let's go take a look. Let's see my reactions to the video, and let's actually dive deep into what we're going to expect from hard Faction Wars. And, maybe I can start putting out some hard Faction Wars content as well. So what we have here is the Raid Shadow Legends update preview, and we are going to go through it, react to it, break it down, and hopefully you guys should actually be able to hear the audio with this. So let's get that working.
Hey everyone, it's time for another update preview video, and this time we're covering Faction Wars' new hard difficulty. There are new rewards and reworked bosses, so sit tight and let's dive into it. You're already familiar with the concept thanks to the introduction of hard mode dungeons. Select the harder difficulty and you'll get greater rewards for completing stages. With Faction Wars, the crypt stages will be far more challenging, but you won't unlock it until you've completed Faction Wars on normal difficulty and recruited Lydia the Death Siren.
That's certainly good to know, and I was pretty sure they told us this beforehand, but you need to actually get through all of normal mode on every single faction before you can get into hard mode, which may be a disappointment for some if you're struggling with one or two factions, but for most people, either you're going to be done with Faction Wars or you're going to honestly want to focus on getting Lydia first, and honestly, Lydia is probably going to be really good for hard anyway.
More factions are released in the future, though, anybody who's already unlocked hard difficulty will retain access to it. You'll just need to clear the new faction's normal mode before you can access it on hard.
That makes sense, too. If they add more factions, which they are going to do, if they add at least one more faction. We might eventually get some more as well, but there's definitely at least one more faction coming, and that would certainly make sense, because that would balance out the four faction groups that they have, at least, as well.
Hard. Oh, and you'll be able to enter Faction Wars on hard using the
same keys, that's definitely good. 6 keys here, that is good too, because you get 12 and then an additional 6 keys. So you will no longer have to run, basically you used to have to run all your hard on 20 or 21, and then you'd run some 2 keys. So it was like level 9 is what most people would run for that. It was okay, but it's kind of nice actually to be moving on from that. And for 6, the big problem with that is it would be really nice if you could actually run this as a triple dungeon super raid instead of a double. So you could run it once with all 3 keys for ultra endgame accounts when you're just simply doing an account, running it for your dailies as well. Because that's going to happen eventually. In fact, some people will probably get there pretty quickly. But if it is 6 keys through every single stage, which would be great, then it's always going to be that nice even number divide. So you're always going to have 3 runs. That's also going to mean it's going to take you 7 runs through the dungeons minimum to get to all of the stars, because you can only do 3 stages each time that it opens. So you're going to be able to first do 1 through 3, then 4 through 6, then 7 through 9, etc., through stage 21. And there is a stage 21, it looks like. So that is certainly worth knowing as well.
Same crypt keys. Good thing the crypt keepers haven't changed the locks. The schedule will also remain the same across both difficulties, so no confusion there. And that's all there is to the basics of Faction Wars on hard difficulty, but there's a bit more than tougher enemies for you to contend with. First up, there's a separate chain of rewards for Faction Wars challenges on.
I like these chain of rewards. It's nice to actually do something, get some progress, and unlock something. It's one of the things that unfortunately is missing from Endgame because, other than your daily logins, there's not much you can do to get this type of stuff. Certainly, Centranos has added some of that features with some of the stuff you can do in Centranos, but having these to unlock just feels good because it feels like you've accomplished something just for, ooh, I beat this content, and I get this extra reward, and I get this extra reward. Getting rewarded for playing the game feels good.
On hard. It won't be quite as simple as before to get them, though. Clearing a stage with no losses will only net you 2 stars instead of 3 this time around. That 3rd star will have stage-specific requirements attached to it.
That looks potentially painful, but will be interesting. This means that we may have specific stage guides that may happen. So, if you actually get stuck at a particular stage, you can certainly request me to do a guide on a particular stage. Unfortunately, it does mean that some stages to get the 3 stars may be very champion specific. Now, this is certainly end game content, so in theory, you should have enough of a roster to be able to make some tweaks to your team, especially if you're planning on clearing this all the way through. And if you're not planning on clearing it all the way through because, you're fairly new or you just got your Lydia, that's fine too. It's nice to have some challenging content to work towards.
Which you'll be able to check on the team selection screen for that.
That's nice that it's right there. That's obviously where it would make sense because that's where it is currently, where it tells you this stuff too. So place 10 provoked debuffs for this one. That's interesting. That'd be a little different. That's an orc one too. So I know Dr. Pierce does some provoke. You can certainly build people in gear with provoke. I don't know who else does provoke in that faction. So that's interesting.
Stage or in the info pop-up on the team selection window before diving into battle. Tap the 3-star conditions drop-down menu, choose the faction you need, and check the challenges for that faction crypt.
Ooh, this is nice. So you can actually look through and see all of these things to kind of plan your champion builds and see who you might need. Let's just see what's on the stuff we have here. Plus, place provokes, place stuns. You're probably going to need stun sets for this one. Reduce, to be fair, you only have to do these once, so it's not the worst thing to have to put some people in stun or provoke gear and then pull them back out of it afterwards. But certainly annoying if you don't like moving gear around. And that's another thing that, I really hope that they do something more about that gear price. It was really nice to have 2 weeks of free gear removal. So Plarium, do that again. So, reduce 6 enemies by 50% in 1 skill. You got to basically nuke a bunch of people really hard with that. Manipulate skill cooldowns 10 times. It's in orcs. Isn't the only person... Well, I don't know. I'll have to look into that one. The only person I know that does that is Warlord in orcs. So that might be difficult. I don't know. I don't know who else manipulates skill cooldowns in orcs, so I'd have to look at that. Maybe you'd have to actually have gear that would manipulate cooldowns, so maybe everyone has to be in reflex gear to get that. That seems kind of sus as well, though. Burn debuffs, manipulate turn meter 40 plus times. That's doable because that doesn't say on your team or the other team. That's just manipulate it, so hopefully that's fine. Clear the stage in 100 turns, a speed run effectively. Place provokes and stuns. Okay, so that gets kind of repetitive a little bit. Will be interesting to see, and I don't know if these are final or not. Obviously, this is, still, their footage, so maybe this one isn't final for the orcs. Some of these, the stuns and the provokes and the cooldowns look challenging, actually. Which is not necessarily bad, but it's challenging if you need this Void Legendary to do it, because that's not challenging. That is bad game design. So we'll see.
Some stages will require you to manipulate enemy skill cooldowns. Some will task you with slaying your foes without letting them heal. Perhaps you'll need to land killing blows when your enemies have no buffs. The challenges are tough, but we've chosen them carefully to suit each faction's roster of champions. Conquering these challenges will be worth it, though. Clearing all stages with 3 stars in hard mode allows you to recruit Polera.
Yep, go back there just slightly. Yep, it is 6 all the way through, so that's great.
Polera Fireheart, a brand new mythical from the Sacred Order, as well as a bunch of other goodies. We'll release a dedicated champion spotlight to showcase Polera's skill kit soon. Don't miss it. Oh,
Definitely.
And remember the
Champion?
tainted bosses we introduced to the hard mode dungeons? Well, say hello to the Tainted Faction Crypt Keepers. Each one will have a particular focus that affects the battle in a different way. For example, Tainted Protector will revive his minions, buff them, and wreak havoc upon your team. Tainted Dueler, on the other hand, will reflect damage, transfer all debuffs from himself to your champions, and then smack them really hard. We won't spend time here diving into their skills and the tactics you'll need to beat them, but we'll post dedicated boss guides in-game when the feature goes live.
Yeah, and I will certainly do some videos on each of these bosses and possible ways to tackle them. It's certainly going to depend on the faction, obviously, as well. Particularly, I'm sure, hopefully they don't do some of these really weird stuff on some of these boss stages as well. Clear the stage in 100 turns is not the weirdest one I would expect on a boss stage.
Just tap the handy icon in the team selection screen to get a helping hand. Now then, back to the rewards. You'll be able to get goodies such as artifact and craft materials that you already know, and glyphs, including brand new rare, epic, and legendary rank 6 glyphs. These new glyphs will be usable on all existing stats that glyphs cover, but can only be used on rank 6 gear. The stat bonuses they provide will be greater than what you've seen before, so save them for your best gear. You'll also...
Okay, let's go back to that. So defense to 7 to 12 for a legendary. Normally this is 3 to 8, I think, for a 6-star. So yeah, it's just more stats. Yay, I guess. I mean, more stat creep, but also at the same time, more stats. And yeah, it's certainly going to mean you're going to need to pay attention to faction wars, because taking that from 8 to 12% is huge. But that also means like the speed one, which goes to 8, might actually go to 12. That's up to 4 more speed per item per one of these glyphs. So these legendary speed glyphs might be particularly exciting.
You'll also earn rewards for clearing hard mode stages 7, 14, and 21 in each crypt for the first time.
Okay, that seems lame. Now, I kind of get that that might be a good lower end one, but you used to get legendary skill tomes from Faction Wars, and I know it'd be nice if they gave you a mythical book, because you're getting a mythical champion. So maybe if Stage 21 at least was a mythical book, nice big chunky soul stones would be certainly nice, because you really can't earn them in game normally, the big ones. Something like that. Something more achievement than a, hey, here's a random chance to possibly increase the stat on a single item that may or may not go on a champion. So obviously you're probably going to be glyphing champions that you're using the gear on, but you know, that gear is never guaranteed to be on a champion at some point in time either. So that feels very underwhelming for these stage ones, but at the same time, I guess it is a guaranteed top 6-star glyph, I guess. I don't know.
Same as on normal difficulty. Don't forget there's also a brand new reward chain along the bottom of the Faction Wars main window to earn as you progress through hard mode. You already know about Polara Fireheart, but before you reach that final milestone reward, there are shards, soul stones, skill tomes, and plenty more awaiting you. That's not all.
Interestingly enough, when they showed the skill tomes, it was only legendaries and mythicals. So from that perspective, that's good. This is endgame content. People should be focused on legendaries and mythicals. It doesn't mean that rares or epics are going to be not particularly useful, but it means that legendaries are going to be more useful, because legendaries generally do more, have better stats, and will be more helpful for some of the Faction Wars hard challenges than your epics, and then definitely than your rares and uncommons and stuff like that. So that doesn't surprise me too much. That's actually kind of nice. I did also see the big honkin' soulstone as a reward there, so at least there's a way to get one of them, or 2 of them maybe. So that's an improvement. I would certainly like to see more ways to earn those big soulstones in the game.
All though, hard mode stages also drop relic crafting materials whenever you complete them, and not just your usual relics either. We're introducing a brand new group of relics specifically for Faction Wars. We'll be adding 8 new relics in total, 2 for rare, epic, legendary, and mythical rarities. Our developers had some fun coming up with this batch.
Well, glad they had some fun with that. Hopefully they were having fun doing other stuff, but you know, nice that they had some fun. But in all seriousness, no. It's nice if this lets us earn more relics at a slightly faster pace. Hopefully there's some ways to get basalt to maybe get some of these relics beyond just 4 stars, really, because it's really hard to get us one beyond a 4-star. Beyond a 5-star, you really have to sacrifice an awful lot of relics to get something to a 5-star. And get that 6-star, I don't think there's anybody in the game that has a 6-star unless they've sacrificed almost everything else that they have. Very, very difficult to do, just because, you know, I don't think there's any way really to earn 4-star basalt. And without the 4-star basalt, without 5-star basalt, you basically have to build a bunch of relics up to that level and then use them as food, much like you would grind champions. And the rate you grind relics in this game is very, very, very slow. I've honestly found that forging relics on my main has actually been kind of painful, because I'm rarely getting epics. I'm usually getting rares, even on like the crafting the epic stuff. I crafted a legendary and got an epic recently. In fact, it was I finally had enough for legendary from the Chimera, and I got an epic, which was not exciting. So I've got like 3 or 4 legendary relics, and that includes the free. Actually, I probably have 5. I've got 5 legendary relics. That includes the free Cat's Gaze I earned and the free one I got from Community Weeks. And that's how many weeks into Chimera? So yeah, they need to do something about these relic rates just a little bit. They really do feel really bad. And while I understand why they did not want to flood everyone with these, you need to make them accessible enough where people feel that they can try to earn one and be kind of excited. Whereas most of the time for me, crafting a relic feels like this is probably going to suck, which is very unfortunate.
There's one that'll remove all buffs from the wearer at the end of their turn, but deal increased damage according to the number of buffs removed. If extra turns are your thing, there's another relic coming that'll increase your chances of getting an extra turn when you've got any active skills on cooldown and the wearer's default skill. One of these new relics also comes with a fancy new debuff, which will play havoc with champions that decide to use active skills. Keep your eyes peeled on our social media, folks. We'll be releasing detailed infographics detailing all 8 relics coming as part of this update. And that's everything for this preview. Don't forget to complete any existing faction crypts you've still got unfinished. Be sure to like the video and hit subscribe to the official Raid Shadow.
All right, so there is the video. Hard mode is coming. Everything's going to be 6 keys, which will be nice because if you're in hard mode, you're pretty much never going to have to lead hard mode again, which is kind of nice. Relic crafting materials are good. We'll see how quickly we get them. That'll be definitely kind of fun. And yeah, it's, I'm excited for it overall. It's new content. It's new challenging content. It looks like there's going to be some staying power with this. Unlike, Chimera feels like Chimera's mostly been solved and it's just a matter of eking out the best stuff, and it doesn't change enough. There's not a good rotation for it. Yes, it changes to affinities, but the challenges don't change. For example, if the challenges changed somewhat regularly on Chimera, that would be more interesting. If Chimera was a weekly change where, 1 month that the ultimate form was 1 affinity, and then you cycle through all 4 affinities on the second forms, and then you move to the next affinity every month. That would be interesting as well. So you'd effectively have a 4-month total rotation, or basically a 12-week total rotation for the Chimera, and you basically would have to do a new Chimera possibly every week, which would be fun. Right now, it's just trot out the same champions you've already built, or maybe you're building a new team. It does require some manual work if you want to get the absolute best for some of the higher end teams. And for the lower end teams, once you've kind of got it solved, you pretty much can hit auto and it feels like a waste of a half an hour sitting there watching it do its thing and you don't even have to interact with it. So, this looks like content that will take a little while. Again, we're going to be needing 7 runs through each dungeon minimum to be able to get all those stars, probably more for most people. Unless you've got an absolute baller of an account, you're probably going to struggle at some of these levels and at least have to run some of them more than once just to get that 3rd star. And that's fine. That's kind of how regular Faction Wars works. You don't always get tons of extra with that as well. So, it's looking interesting. I think it's going to be fun overall. I will definitely be making some videos because I think Faction Wars is honestly really fun content because it makes you think. It makes you think about the team you're going to build. It makes you consider the champions in that faction. And if they actually do a good job of playing up to the strengths of each faction, well, then it will be an interesting challenge. And if they don't do a good job of playing up to the strengths in each challenge, then it's going to be interesting to think what they think the strength of each of the factions are, and maybe we'll learn something new, or maybe we'll learn that Raid doesn't know their factions quite well. I don't know. Regardless, I think that this is probably some of the most exciting new content that we've had drop since maybe the original Chimera drop, not Chimera drop, but the original Hydra drop. And, that was a lot of fun for a while. Yes, they did have to tweak it a bit. They did have to make some changes to it. So it's not going to be perfect early on. I totally get that. But if they did a good job with these bosses and they're fairly well balanced and interesting, this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. What do you think is going to be the most fun about this hard faction war stuff? Anything that you think I did not cover that I probably should have talked about? What's your favorite faction? Let me know down below. I will start to cover some of this stuff as it launches, so we'll get some faction wars videos out there for hard mode. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So appreciate you guys hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. You guys are absolutely amazing. Have a wonderful day, and until the next video, I'm Bront.